Hello everyone, and welcome to our 30-minute recorded webinar on Advance Directives. My name is Catherine Hall, and I will be your instructor today. Once you listen to the full 30 minutes of our webinar, we will give you a code to redeem funds towards your health savings account. Thank you all for joining us to get this important information. The goal of our webinar is to introduce you to the 3 steps for your own medical advance care planning. We'd like to start today with a Connect to Purpose, which illustrates the importance of Advance Directives. And we're very grateful to Kate Grew, the Chief Nursing Officer at Atrium, for sharing her family's experience with us. Kate's brother John is pictured here, and John was a happy, very active 48-year-old when he collapsed at his home in upstate New York. Emergency medics performed CPR and he was transferred to the hospital and admitted. The family learned that John had suffered a massive heart attack and had significant brain damage related to not having had enough oxygen, and at that time he was requiring a breathing machine to keep him alive. The family was being asked to make decisions about what types of medical treatment John would want to continue receiving. His prognosis was not good. The medical team was saying that John was never going to be the way he was before he had the heart attack, and he was not going to know where he was or who he was with ever again. John's family included Kate and several siblings, as well as twin 20-year-old daughters and parents who were in their 80s. The family wasn't sure what John would want them to do. One of John's brothers decided to check John's apartments to see if there was any paperwork outlining his wishes, and to everyone's surprise, he found a file box under John's bed, and in that box was a living will document. The living will clearly stated that John would not want to receive life-prolonging measures if he were ever in a situation where he did not have hope for meaningful recovery. Kate said, quote, "I thought I knew what he would want, but it helped us to see it in writing. And his last gift to us was that we did not have to make that most difficult decision about stopping treatments. We knew we were speaking for him and doing what he would want." Kate said they were able to come together as a family and grieve together rather than being apart and having different ideas about what types of treatments John would want. In the 10 years since John died, Kate and her siblings have continued to feel blessed that he wrote down his wishes. And from this experience, they have all made sure to complete their own advance directives, as well as having ongoing conversations with their family members concerning their own wishes. Kate said that although they will never know what prompted John to complete his living will, not a day goes by that she doesn't say thank you to him for writing down his wishes. And her last quote was, "It was truly a gift to us." So we'll talk about John and reflect on the gift that he gave his family several times throughout this webinar. In our society, we tend to make plans for joyful events, birthdays, weddings, vacations, and many times we avoid planning for the harder or more challenging parts of life. Even when people make plans for what will happen after they die, such as making their funeral arrangements or deciding which family member will get what piece of jewelry or things like that, they often don't make plans for the dying process itself. And this includes things like deciding who will make their medical decisions and what kind of treatments and how much treatments would they want to receive at the end of life. This is part of what we're trying to change in our culture, talking about our wishes ahead of a crisis. We all want to believe that we'll be healthy, active, and in control of our own medical decisions throughout all of our life, but a sudden accident or illness, a serious illness, can take away that freedom. Our goal today is to encourage you to think about the future. When the day comes that you can't speak for yourself, who will you want to make choices for you? And today we will help you plan ahead for your future health care in 3 steps: thinking about it, talking about it, and writing it down. We call this process advanced care planning. Advanced care planning is an important part of routine health care for all adults. No matter how old you are, or even if you don't have any medical conditions, it's important for all of us. As John's story illustrated, something sudden can happen at any time, and we never know when these events are going to happen. Advanced care planning is an ongoing process of thinking and talking about what type of treatments you would want if you did have that sudden illness or injury and you were not able to speak for yourself. I want to emphasize one important point at this point in our webinar, and that is that advanced care planning is not about what happens to your money or your possessions after you die. Sometimes people confuse those concepts, and it's important to understand that we're talking about medical treatments while you are alive during times you cannot speak for yourself. These conversations that you have throughout your advanced care planning process should happen with your loved ones and with your healthcare team. Another important point to realize is it's not only about the paperwork. We saw how the power of the paperwork in John's situation, but it involves more than just writing down your wishes. It's about having the conversations with your loved ones as well, and it should be reviewed throughout your life. Sometimes people ask, well, that sounds, like a good idea, but what are some additional benefits? And there's three main additional benefits. One is that you are more likely to get the care that you want, no more or no less, during times you can't speak for yourself. It's more likely that you're going to get the care you want. Number two, the person or the people that you want to make your healthcare decisions will have the legal ability to do that. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. And number three is, just like we saw in John's situation, this will really help your loved ones to make decisions for you. And it is truly a gift to your family when you do your advanced care planning. We have a three-step process that we've developed here at Your Care, Your Choice. We're a department within Atrium Health. And the three-step process we've already mentioned is thinking about it, talking about it, and then writing it down. This is just an overview slide, and we're going to go through each of these steps in more detail. The first thing that we ask you to think about is choosing your healthcare agent. And the term agent refers to the person who you're going to put down on your healthcare power of attorney form. Some states call this person a proxy. In North Carolina, it's called an agent. So this is a person who would make your medical decisions for you during times you cannot speak for yourself. You can choose almost anyone to be your agent. The only requirements are that they are 18 or older and that they are a competent adult themselves, and it cannot be someone that you pay for healthcare services. An important point is that it is not required that you choose a family member. You can choose a neighbor or a close friend. It does not have to be a family member. If you're not sure whom to choose as your agent, consider the 4 questions here. Who are you comfortable talking with about sensitive topics? Who would honor your wishes? Who can make difficult decisions during a stressful time? And who is willing to accept this role? The person that you choose does not need to know everything about your medical history, but they should know you well as a person and be willing to have ongoing conversations with you so that they will understand your wishes in detail. I'm going to stop and just point out that when we get to the form, you're going to have an opportunity to name an agent, as we mentioned, and you're also recommended that you name a backup agent. So we say speak in terms of agent as one person, but we're really talking about a couple of people that you'll want to think about to put down on your form. Take a minute to look at this slide. This is a pyramid depiction of the North Carolina decision-making order. And we encourage everyone to understand who their decision maker is according to North Carolina law. South Carolina law is slightly different, and we do have a pyramid for South Carolina that's on our website. We'll give you that address at the end of the webinar. But you'll see on this pyramid that the top, the orange section, is you as an individual or you as a patient, and you are always in charge of your own medical decisions as long as you're able. If your doctors do not feel like you're alert, awake enough to participate, then they will start going down this pyramid and determine who will be the person to make your medical decisions. The blue section involves legal paperwork, and you'll see the healthcare power of attorney right under the patient there. And then the green section is your next of kin. If you don't have any legal paperwork, you'll need to look down and go down from spouse and under there to determine who your decision maker is. It's important to understand that when you name your emergency contact person within a healthcare system, say you go for a surgery and you're registering with the registrar, that doesn't automatically give that person legal decision making. And I think that a lot of people think that they've already told their healthcare system who they want to make their decisions, but really it's just an emergency contact. We want to make sure that each of you have the person that you want making medical decisions for you. After thinking about whom you would choose for your healthcare agent, the next thing to think about is the type of medical treatments you would want in the event of a serious illness or accident where you could not speak for yourself and the medical team thought that you were not going to recover. Modern medicine can do some amazing things, but it can lead to some tough choices. And sometimes you'll be awake and alert and making those choices for yourself, but during the times you aren't awake or alert, your loved ones may have to make those choices for you. And this is why it's so important to think about this ahead of a crisis. We're going to have two scenarios that we're asking you to consider. And the first one is this. You have been in a car accident and you were unable to speak for yourself. And you're getting treatment to keep you alive and comfortable. Doctors believe you have irreversible brain damage and will not regain the ability to know who you are or who is with you. In this situation, the question that we're asking you to consider is, would you want to live with machines keeping you alive? And if so, how long? These aren't easy situations to think about, but the reason we're asking you to consider it is because this is some of the information that you'll have the opportunity to think more about and actually write down your wishes for on your living will. The second scenario that we asked you to consider is you have an end-stage illness, and doctors say the illness cannot be cured and you will not live much longer. So this is a terminal diagnosis. You may have been living with this illness for years. Doctors will keep you comfortable, but want to know what type of treatment you want and what you consider to be most important. At that time in your life, what would be most important to you? What matters most to you? For some people, they want to focus on longevity, and they would be interested in living as long as possible, as many days, as many months as possible, even if that requires constant medical care, maybe in the hospital or another long-term medical facility. Some people want to focus on other priorities. They're not as concerned with the number of days and months, but the quality of days and months, and they want to focus on being able to do certain things, such as spending time with their loved ones, having meaningful conversations, maybe making a trip if they're able, things like that that would potentially not involve as much intense medical treatment. For some people, as long as there's breath, there is life, even if the breath is being provided by a machine and they're in the hospital bed and they're not able to talk. And for some people, living is being able to recognize their loved ones, have meaningful conversations. And some people, their independence is their number one priority. There's not a right or wrong answer to this. It's just important that we all think about where we lie on this spectrum and that we tell our loved ones what would be most important to us. Now that you've thought about choosing your healthcare agent in different end-of-life situations, we are switching to step number 2, which is talking about these choices. We want you to talk to your agent, the person who you're going to name on your healthcare power of attorney form. Of course, we want you first to ask the person if they're willing to serve in that role. Naming someone for this role is a serious responsibility, and you should ask the person if they are comfortable making choices for you. Once your agent has agreed to help you, you should share information with them about your values, beliefs, and choices for future medical treatment, such as talking through those two scenarios that we just reviewed and letting them know what you would want or not want in certain situations. In addition to sharing, we want you to discuss with your agent personal experiences that you've had and ask them to share experiences that they've had and how those experiences have impacted your choices and their understanding of the situations that you're talking about. It's important for your agent to understand the why behind your choices rather than just seeing that paperwork on the back end. We've listed some conversation starters here that will help you talk with your healthcare agent. And these are all listed on our website, so I won't read them all to you, but an example of one is, I've been thinking about what happened to Aunt Sue, and it helped me make some important decisions for myself. In addition to talking to your agent, it's very important to talk with all of your loved ones, not just the folks who you've put their name down on the healthcare power of attorney form. The reason this is important is because it helps prevent family conflict and it helps make everyone's role more clear. So we asked you to consider people who might be at the bedside in the hospital if you were seriously ill. And those are the close people in your lives. It would be important for them to know who you've named as your healthcare agent and what you've asked them to decide for you. Unfortunately, what we see in the hospital sometimes is loved ones who haven't been a part of the conversation may get angry or frustrated with the agent for making certain decisions. And that's not really fair to the agent because they're really just trying to do what you've asked them to do. So if you tell everybody ahead of time what your choices are, who your agents are, what you've asked them to decide for you, it's more likely to go more smoothly. We've got some examples of how to talk to your agent here on this screen, and those are available on our website as well. It's also important to talk with your medical team to explain your wishes, and this is a piece that many people miss. If you have chronic conditions, talk with your doctor to understand the course of your illness and what decisions may need to be made in the future. This is going to help inform your choices, and then also you can relay those choices to your healthcare agent and tell them, in the event I'm not able to speak for myself, this is what I would want you to choose. For some people we're encouraging to do your advance directives way ahead of even having a chronic condition. It's important for your doctor to just know that you've completed a healthcare power of attorney and living will, and that you'd like it included in your medical record. And if you have any other strong desires to talk with your physician about your end-of-life wishes in case of that sudden event, it would be important to let them know about that as well. And that can be included in your medical record as well. Now we're on to step 3, write it down. After you've thought about it and talked about it, it's not as hard to write your wishes down on the actual paperwork. Again, these written documents that we're getting ready to talk about have nothing to do with your finances, only your medical treatments during times you are unable to communicate your choices for yourself. An advance directive includes 2 forms, a healthcare power of attorney and a living will. And here at Atrium, we use the North Carolina practical form, which combines both the healthcare power of attorney and the living will. While we'll note that the South Carolina documents, we won't show those on the webinar, but they are on our website as well, the PDF. So you can go to our website and click on that form and get a blank South Carolina healthcare power of attorney form. We've talked a little bit in general terms about a healthcare power of attorney, but I want to define that again for you here and let you know that that is a form in which you choose another person called a healthcare agent to be in charge of your medical care during times you are not able to make decisions for yourself as determined by your doctor. I want to make a note that a healthcare power of attorney form could be referenced even during times you're expected to get better. For example, if you're under sedation for a surgery and you're not able to make a decision, they would look at your healthcare power of attorney form and see who your healthcare agent is, and they would work with your agent to make a decision. Once you wake up and you're not under sedation anymore, you'd be back to making your own decisions. So my point with that example is that a healthcare power of attorney is a document that could be used throughout your life, not just at the end of your life. In contrast, the living will, which is also known as a declaration of a desire for a natural death, lets you express your wishes to have a natural death by choosing not to receive life-prolonging measures in certain end-of-life conditions. So a living will is specifically end-of-life wishes, whereas a healthcare power of attorney can be used throughout life. I want to make that determination because our form is combined and sometimes it's not clear when the different pieces of it might need to be used. So going back to the living will, this is for folks who do not want intensive medical treatment during the dying process. And there are 3 conditions under which you would choose not to receive the life-prolonging measures. The first condition is if you have an incurable or irreversible condition that will result in death in a short period of time. The second one is if you're unconscious and cannot regain consciousness. And the third one is if you have advanced dementia or another substantial loss of your ability to think. You'll have the opportunity on your living will to initial 1, 2, or 3 of those conditions under which you would not want to receive life-prolonging measures. We're talking about the North Carolina practical form here, which is the North Carolina form, and that form is 5 pages. The first 2 pages of the form include instructions and definitions, so I encourage you to read those very carefully. There's a lot of frequently asked questions and answers are written out on that document. So make sure you read all that and understand it. We don't have time to go through it in more detail on today's webinar, but that is available on the form. One important piece that I want everybody to understand is that in North Carolina, your advance directive is not valid until you've signed it in front of a notary and 2 witnesses. This is very important. You can complete the 3rd page and the 4th page, but you don't sign anything until you're in front of a notary and 2 witnesses. I want to let everybody know that all 5 pages of your North Carolina Advance Directive should stay together when you make copies. Even though your name isn't on the first 2 pages, all 5 pages need to be a part of the copies that you make. And we urge you to only make front-only copies. Don't make these copies front and back, because sometimes when it's scanned in the medical record, not all 5 pages will show up. So keep all 5 pages together and make your copies only on one side. A note on the witnesses. I want to let you know that the witnesses cannot work for your doctor, or if you're in the hospital, they can't be an employee of the hospital, and they cannot be related to you or be heirs to your estate. So they have to be kind of an impartial witness, and those witnesses have to be there when you're with the notary. So it does involve some logistics. I'll remind you that the South Carolina document is on our website, and for that healthcare power of attorney, it does not require a notary. A notary is optional, so you could just have 2 witnesses for your South Carolina healthcare power of attorney, and it would be a valid document. That's a big difference in the state laws for advance directive completion. Also in South Carolina, the healthcare power of attorney within that document allows you to set forth your wishes for end-of-life treatment and give your agent direction about what you would want them to do in certain end-of-life situations. So it's not required that you do the healthcare power of attorney and living will, because some of your end-of-life wishes are incorporated into that healthcare power of attorney. Email us if you have questions about that. So many of you may be wondering where you can go to get this done and how much it costs. And we're excited to let you know that we have Atrium sponsored workshops, at different hospitals and through the community. And so these are available on our website, atriumhealth.org/your care, your choice. That your care, your choice is all together. And we have workshops throughout the year in Mecklenburg County, Cabarrus County, Union County. A lot of these are at community sites such as libraries and senior centers. So we encourage you to attend one of these workshops where you can get more information, get all your questions answered. And we do have notaries at these workshops, so you can leave with a completed advance directive. These workshops are open to the public. They're open to you as teammates. We encourage you to bring your loved ones. And as I said, it's open to the public. You don't even have to be an Atrium patient. These are available to everyone. A couple of reminders about our workshop are that you need to bring a valid photo identification for the notary process, and that you also need to bring your healthcare agent contact information with you, their phone and address with you. A lot of times people ask if their healthcare agent needs to be present with them at the workshop when they sign their paperwork, and the answer to that is no. They do not need to be with you when you come to do your paperwork. Only you are signing that form. They don't sign anything on the form. If you prefer to complete the document on your own, you can download it from our website, complete pages 3 and 4, and then take it to your local notary, such as at maybe a credit union or a UPS, and have them request that they notarize that for you. And once it's notarized, it is a valid advance directive. We want to make sure you share your choices with all the right people. Unfortunately, in the hospital, sometimes we see patients who can't speak for themselves, and their loved ones know that there's paperwork, but they just can't put their hands on it. They can't find it anywhere. So we want to make sure everyone's paperwork is available. We want you to give copies to your healthcare agent and to your other loved ones who may be involved with your care. We want you to put this on file with your primary care doctor's office. We want to let you know that the healthcare systems don't share scanned documents. So if you receive care with 2 different systems, you would need to file it with both systems. There is a Secretary of State registry in North Carolina. It's not required, it's optional, and that can be loaded up for a $10 fee. Your documents do not expire, but we do hope that you review them throughout your life, at every decade, if you experience the death of a loved one, if you go through a divorce, if you have a new diagnosis, or if you have a decline in medical condition. If your wishes still remain the same and the people who you want making your decisions remain the same, you don't have to complete a new document. But if something has changed, we encourage you to complete a new document, and once your new document is notarized, the old one will be invalid. That's all you have to do to invalidate the other one, is to do a new document and make sure it's notarized and get it on file in all the places that we mentioned. One quick note, I want to make sure everybody understands that the living will that we talked about is not the same thing as a do not resuscitate. A do not resuscitate is a physician order. When you do a living will, you're still going to get CPR, you're still going to get all emergency care. It's not the same thing as a do not resuscitate. We just want to let you all know that. If you're reaching, if you have a serious illness and you're reaching the last year or 2 of your life, it would be important to talk with your physician about other orders, such as do not resuscitate goldenrods, if that would be your wish, or a medical order for scope of treatment, so that the medics could follow your care plan. But that's not needed if you're a healthy adult. Just the advance directives are what you want to focus on. I just wanted to mention the difference between these. Again, we're almost to the code and closing out our webinar for today, but we want to remind you our website has conversation starters, North Carolina and South Carolina advance directive forms. We have the list of all of our workshops as well as other helpful information, and that's atriumhealth.org/your care, your choice. We also have email, your care, your choice, all together, at atriumhealth.org. So if you have questions about your specific situation, then you're welcome to email us. We'll get back with you within 2 to 3 days. Now, we're going to give you instructions on how to obtain your incentive. You're going to want to log back into your LiveWELL portal. You want to click on Financial Wellbeing, and then you'll see a screen, and it'll have the question, completed the Advance Directive webinar, and you're going to click here to say that yes, you have completed the Advance Directive webinar, and you're going to see a screen pop up, and on that screen you're going to enter this information. The name of today's webinar is Advance Directives. My name as the instructor is Catherine Hall, H-A-L-L, just like a hallway, Catherine Hall, Catherine with a C. And the webinar code that you're going to need to enter is capital M as in Mary, capital K as in Kitty, 2020. I'm going to repeat that one more time. The webinar code is M as in Mary, K as in Kitten, 2020. And my name is Catherine Hall. That's how you enter. That's all you have to do, and you'll be seeing that your incentive was met within, it might not show up right away, you give it a little bit of time, but in the next following days, you'll see that you've met that incentive, and then you'll be receiving the funds at the next time that they apply those to the HSA. They do those throughout the year. We want to thank you all for listening today and learning about your own advanced care planning. And we do want to be a resource to you, so we want you to email us with any questions that you have for your own planning. And again, our email is yourcareyourchoice@atriumhealth.org. Remember Kate's brother John and the gift he gave his family. We want you to give this same gift to your loved ones. Thank you again for attending today's webinar, and we look forward to hearing from you with your questions or at one of our workshops. Thank you.